Hi and welcome to this new video. Today we're going to explore where AI actually fits. My goal today is to give you a methodology on how to think about AI implementation for different types of businesses. We're going to use the case study of export operation today, but you can use the same methodology to think about your current either professional activity, your current business, or your current line of business. So let's start. Who I am Amin Rabhi. I have plus 13 years of experience building and shipping technical products. I am a professional project manager and I have a PhD in deep tech. Since the last 2 years, we started implementing AI and we focused on generative AI solutions for companies. And there have been 2 use cases where we already worked on the export operations. So that's what I want to dive deeper into this line of activity to give you a framework how to think about AI activities in your current business. So 3 things you will get out of today. Today you get a method you can run on your own business, question and frameworks to think about AI, and a worked example. We will go through this specific example with details so you can understand where AI fits and you can reuse the same frameworks in your current type of business. What this video is not about tools and specific, the new LLM that is going out each week or the hundreds of tools you are going to use. You need to think first about the problems you have in your business, the business value, and then does the technology actually fits based on several criteria. One of them is, does the cost of implementing the technology fits in your current state of the business? So the 5 steps we're going to go through today are, we start by analyzing how the business works, what are the core processes and activities this business, and then we find where it hurts. You either do this through some discussions with your peers, through your introspection if it's you are going to implement for yourself, or throughout research online if you are implementing for someone else. And then we will map the pain to what AI can actually do or cannot do, and you see where it is worth considering or not. And then we will score the options and on criteria you can argue with, and then you can use that to select which AI use cases you're going to start with. And then we will see the results, and then we can discuss how you can implement this in your own solutions. So we'll start with how the business works. Here, the goal is to identify the stages of each business. So we start the chain of core activities, what it is repeated in terms of tasks, what consumes a lot of time, what an expert can do in a few minutes through his 10 years of expertise that AI can do later, and what other things that AI cannot do, like relationship building and other aspects. So let's start. In this case, we are going with an exporter. There are 6 stages of an exporter if you want to simplify. So there is an exporter who did not start to export. So it's a company who is building things locally, so domestic only, and then they have an order from another country. Let's say you're in France, you have an order from Nigeria or the inverse, and then you get that order, you fulfill it, but you don't have an export department and export activity. You just fulfill that order. And then you start to deliberately explore and say, okay, what can my product fit in other markets? And this we start to be more active in terms of activity, and then you start to have a structured entity, and then you start to do repeat operations, and your mode of export changes into maybe even building a factory somewhere else. So this is the stages, and depending on the stage, the AI solution might change. And it's the case in your other types of businesses. If you are, of course, for example, in e-commerce, just starting out, or an established e-commerce brand is not the same. So it depends on the volume of operation you do, on the stage, and the current problem you have in your business. So in the core activities, what we can identify is that we go through these 6 stages, and whatever the stage is, always some things that are common. For example, you do the market intelligence. You either identify the market or you watch what is happening in the market. This is very important because the decision here is very important to take for you, and it involves a lot of marketing costs, a lot of upfront costs into the travels and the efforts you're going to do as a company. And then you see the market access. Do you have do you earn the right to sell? What it means here specifically, do you have the specific certification and compliance documents? Are you ready as a company to export to that country and to deliver the necessary documents, or is it still work to do? For example, in the medical devices, in some countries you need the ISO 13485 to export to that market. And then some common activity for export is to find the partner and define it, identify him, and then start to make clauses and start to do the activity with him. This can have an issue if you do an exclusivity, for example, and then there is no performance clause. Certification, you can have issues if you don't know the right certification or you don't flick the right HS code to your product. And then in trade execution here, when you get things moving from your place for your factory to the export factory, and here you move goods, and then there is a lot of documents to set, a lot of synchronization to do with many players in this export journey for the consignment, for the shipments. And this is a repeat process, can be optimized in some way with AI, we will see later. And then there is the cash and growth aspect here. You need to get paid. There is a cycle of payment that is specific to the export. Sometimes you get paid 4 months after you start this export journey and production journey. Sometimes you get paid before, depending on your agreement in terms of payment. So this is the core activities of export. There are supporting layers to this export, let's say, because there is the money layer where you need to finance. Sometimes this is one of the core issues of export, is that there is a cash gap between making the product, exporting it, having it delivered, and then the recipient pays you for that, the distributor in the other end, or the importer in the other end. There are rules and records you need to be applied to. If you miss that, you can have big issues in terms of fines and delays in your shipments. And there are capacities you need to build. Do you have the right production capacity? Is the packaging fit for this export to this country? For example, to Arab country, you need to fit the packaging to that place. Do you have the right quality and other aspects? So these are the supporting layers. Now if we go and see the cycles of this export operation. So there are two main cycles. The first cycle is the cycle to go to the market. It's the deal cycle. You pick the market and then you go to launch. You pick and then you do the access to the market. You find the buyers. You go to the trip multiple times. You analyze online. You do market research with market research firms. And then you decide to launch in your own way, depending on your own context. And there is this second cycle, which happens a lot as well, is the shipment cycle. Every consignment happens. Every consignment, there is this duty. And then you do the order, you produce the product, you do the documents, you ship it, and then you continue to follow it until it arrives to the destination. So these are the core two cycles. There are some gates to success in the export activity. So when you think about it, the first one is, can it legally enter? Do you have the right to enter that market with your current setup, or do you need to do something else to get there? Second thing, do you have the margin to survive to the shelf? Here, because this is an export, you do the calculation from the shelf back to the production for export prices, meaning the price is going out of the manufacturing facility, and see if it makes sense for you in this case. So there is an optimization to do there in terms of pricing. Is there a channel that will actually sell it? Do you find one person that will sell your product, one entity that will sell your product, which is the most important here, the first person who trusts you? Will we get paid, and do you get paid on time, or are you going to handle the cash gap that is between the production and the delivery when he pays you? And the last one is, will it reorder, meaning if it reorders, meaning that there is a demand. It's not just the first shipment that you are going to make with the distributor, but there is an actual demand in that market. So the next step is the monitoring layer. So what happens behind these cycles is there is constant monitoring. You monitor basically two things. You monitor the market in terms of what is happening commercially there. Is there new brands entering the market? Is there new things happening into this market? Or is there a regulatory watch in terms of shipment rules, in terms of compliance, in terms of regulatory aspects? These two aspects will always need to be monitored, and usually some of these cannot be done regularly because the export team does not have time to do this, and this can result in many issues later on. So this is the cadence. We identify the cadence because it's important for our analysis later, and then we can say if it is done today by a current export team for this specific avatar of exporter, and then we will see later if it applies to AI implementation. So once you do this analysis of the business, in this case, the export markets, we do an inventory of all the core tasks that are done in all of these activity chains, these cycles, these sensing and market and watch layers. And then you put all of them here, you get around 40 core activities. And then you have the activity now. You have the core activities, you have the redundancy of activities, how much it is occurring per week, per year, and then what is the severance of these activities. Now we know we need to go into finding where it hurts in terms of the activity of export. We understand how the business go. Now we need to understand what is the core, the main issues. So the symptoms, the root causes. We do some research. We talk to the person within the team. If there is a team, or if you are the consultants, you can research online as well. So basically, to do this, we will sort these issues by 4 types. We'll enumerate the issues. We will size them. Are they big enough to be solved by technology, or can they still be handled by people today with the traditional way? And then we will do some total figures, and we get some standouts here. So there are 4 core axes to map the issues to. The first one, of course, is the money. There are specific costs that incur from this specific issue. The time, of course, if there is a lot of time spent on this specific task. Is there a risk associated with this task that we can alleviate or mitigate using technology? Is there growth levers that are associated with this task that we can empower with this technology? You can see examples here in the export, like duty overpay, documents. To make documents, it takes a lot of time. A missing certificate or a watch, an information that it did not get on time on the regulatory changes, or an expired quality certificates or quality documents can incur a lot of delays and thus a lot of lost revenue or even fines. Same in terms of export. The growth depends on the market you're choosing. If you take the right decision, you can make your product grow more. If you take the right decision also in terms of which product you're going to put into that market. So let's move on. After you do this, you can start to research and enumerate. There are a lot of symptoms within an export market. They are all laid out in here. You can pause the video to see in detail, but we can take some examples. For example, there is a shipment health and customs, which happens a lot in terms of this export operation and global trade. For example, it can be missing certificate or document mismatch. It can be a wrong HS code. So this is a very likely reason, and it can cost a lot of delays and fines as well. Of course, if there is a duty higher than quoted, then your classification may be wrong, and here your margin that you calculated before will be wrong, so you'll not be as profitable as you expected. And then there are other aspects. For example, you can be locked out of the market if there are non-trade measures that you did not account for. So here you lost a lot of time, or you did not document enough about your ability to go into that market. And then we can see also what we can brainstorm here, what is not done a lot. For example, you do not evaluate many markets at once because it takes you too much time to do that. So you go by hunch, and you go by maybe the first demand or what other people do. So, and then this is something that we can do later with AI, because we can automate or semi-automate this process. We cannot reach out to buyers systematically without using technology, because it takes a lot of time to find them and to go physically see them. So this is also a process that we will see later can be done with AI today. And then we can also not watch all the time the rules and regulations that are changes in what is happening in the market in terms of competitors or in terms of regulations. So this is to discover new capabilities that you might do with AI, whether it is generative AI or classical AI like machine learning, deep learning, and so on. From this, we can start to do some research online, which is you can do with any AI tool today. And then you can see that there is 75% of the time it takes to get goods out of the country is administrative. So here there is a lot of things to be done here to help in this core issue. Another factor is that the bank documents, 65% of them are refused on the first attempt. So there's always something to adjust, and it makes a lot of time that is wasted, and it means that it's revenue that you're not going to get in. It's cash flow that your issue that gets bigger. And the last one, another data point, is that 50% of new exporters stop exporting within the single year. And some of the causes we highlighted earlier can be one of them, maybe choosing the wrong market or exporting the wrong product. So now, after we identify this issue, we try to size them in terms of other data. For each one, we start to size them and see where is the biggest data. For example, non-tariff measures cost more than tariffs. Higher exports cost than tariff for 88% of countries, so 3 to 4 times the tariff costs. So this is the global trade. This is done by UN CTAD, which is an association of global trades. You can see that your rules you cannot find are the expensive one, and notified measures cost the equivalent of 28% of tariffs. This is something that you need to be aware of. Not meeting requirement or the certification can be the top harder to access market, especially, for example, emerging countries that want to export to developed countries. Certification can be hard for them. And then the delay is always, most of the time, administrative, like we started right now. So here is the same. You do your paperwork, you look online, and you see what are the biggest issues. If you're talking to your team, you are an executive, see to discuss with them and do a brainstorming and multiple sessions to identify what are the core issues. Try to follow on the steps that they are doing, and then you will see the core complaints. Some of them are recurring, and some of them may be worth your time to automate and to look into if you can find a solution, either technically speaking, and sometimes, to be honest, it's just a matter of changing the processes. It's a matter of governance and not a matter of technology. So you need first to identify that. So this is a big highlight, is 28% of tariff equivalence costs are not related to the tariffs, but non-tariff measures that are applied by that country. And this, we need to be aware of them. And there is a database that is publicly available of that. So the AI, in principle, can get you that database and can give you this information that saves you a lot of time and money in this case. So why do we need to put numbers? We need to put numbers because we are not funding the feelings. We are not doing a project with the whole company based on just a hunch about where we can implement AI here. It can also give us an idea what is the ceiling to spend for these AI solutions. For example, if an issue is costing you $100,000 and then you need $150,000 for an AI project, then it's not worth it to do the AI project. So now we move from the pain identification, from the business understanding in terms of pain of the core processes, into finding the right candidate to apply AI for. So here we see if the problem is big enough, if the root cause justifies the intervention, and then we will sort of the only candidates that will matter. So this is a pre-filtering. For example, not everything that you want to do can be implemented with AI. If it's something that doesn't take more than 100 hours a year, then it's not worth to consider it. Just keep doing it as the way you do it. If the failure to do this doesn't impact your business, then just don't do it as well. If it doesn't generate any loss or any big lever in terms of revenue increase, then don't do it as well. And also, if there is a capacity constraint and not the difficulty, then here you need a new capability to do that, and technology can enable new capabilities. So here you can keep this task. So we do this, we filter the tasks based on that, and then we classify if the work is relevant to the AI or not. For example, if the work is relationship-based, this nature of task or work, relationship-based or judgment-based, then you need to be done by people and not by AI. And this is the case, for example, if you go to the luxury real estate, you cannot implement an AI chatbot that discusses with people. This is luxury clients, this is premium segment, and you need to have this human contact. This is what this type of clients are looking for. The rest, the research and the monitoring and the chasing, can be semi-automated with AI. So in these cases, it is ripe to be used by AI or have a human do it, but augmented with AI. It depends on the case. There are 40 tasks that we started with, and now we will get them down to 18 tasks through this filter that we went through right now. We started to get them to 16. I got them in 16 tasks right now, but I added two in the control group, because sometimes what happens is that your employees, even if it's not backed by data, in fact, they are pushing. The client pushes you and the employee and the department pushes you toward implementing some specific AI solutions. So you just put that there, and then you will score it later to explain if it's feasible or not for that company. Now we ask the next question is, how much of that can AI actually do, and can AI actually fit in this? So we will map to what AI can do. So we will match to think simply about the AI capability. You can match it with the verbs. The verbs generate, retrieve, and execute. The verb predict, perceive, optimize, act physically, or decide. So with each one, you do a correspondence in terms of AI. If it's generating, you can use generating AI, like generating documents, generating summaries, generating insights. If it's retrieving, for example, you look to many websites, many data sources, and then you retrieve it and you summarize, then you will use also retrieval and generative AI, a RAG system. If it's execution of specific task online that can be done in computer, then it can also be done by an agent, because here you need some capabilities, some agentic capabilities. And if it is prediction, you are going to use machine learning. Now, if you take that and then you need to map that into the 4 reasons why you would choose to adopt any technology solution, in this case AI, to your business, it's 4 simple reasons. First one is to grow revenue, reduce cost, improve the outcomes in terms of quality, in terms of customer satisfaction, or to add the new capabilities that you were not able to do before. So once you do that, you will map all 18 candidates here, like document generations, like market watch, and then you put those capabilities into the technology. So you have the verb, you have the technology, and then you say why that we did this pairing, so we could put some logic into it. You can pause here and read the details. And once we do that, we're going to score this criteria, this AI criteria. So there are 4 dimensions to scoring. The first one is the business value. Second one is the feasibility, technical feasibility with data readiness, technology integration, and adoption. And then there is the risk when wrong. This is the third one, the consequences of an error, where is the liability sits. And then the owner priority is the last one. It's very important in terms of business adoption, is will it be sponsored by someone within the organization to be actually used. Otherwise, you're just going to waste your time. Even if it is valuable, sometimes the company is not ready for that implementation. We'll take a specific avatar today to do the scoring. It's an exporter with 2 to 5 million in terms of export. They have more than 10 to 20 assignments, so shipments, let's say, per month. And they have from 1 to 4 active markets and a few people working in the export departments. 1 to 3 people, but not a lot of people working in the export department. Why we need to specific the avatar here for the exporter? Because the rating depends on the capacity of the company. For example, if the company does not have enough data, then the specific AI solution is not ripe for them, or it might cost them too much. So now we're going to read the results and do the assessment. So here we do the assessment against all these criteria that are separated with a business value, then the technological feasibility, then the ownership, and the risk when wrong, the risk part. And then you're going to score them in each one over 5 and then do the average. And then when we finish the scoring, we will get our top cases, which are the cross-document check, partner discovery, market entry research, and landed cost engine. In my discussions with many exporters, for example, the market research entry that comes up a lot already, so it confirms what I was expecting, and also confirms the partner discovery. They say, oh, we only want to find partners that are reliable and they want to sell. The reliability part, there is a part that AI cannot do, which is, for example, check if this partner is solvable and reliable. This you go through third-party organizations who can do that. So the first few ones, they will be ranked in the top right corner in terms of feasibility and business value, which are the quick wins, these things you can do very quickly and you can see value out of it for your own business. And then later, you can move in either to the strategic best or the fast, cheap wins. Sometimes you even do fast, cheap wins for some clients because They want to see something quick. They want to see the value of AI before they invest more. So depending on your organization, sometimes we even start with these fast, cheap wins. So if we take two examples in terms of scoring and to understand the scoring framework here, this cross-document consistency check is here. It takes the finished document and it checks if it's consistent, if there is no mismatch, not something that does not align in terms of numbers or anything else that can inflict a lot of delays. It's something simple you can do and set up with AI, but it helps you down the line to avoid the risks. So here it doesn't generate more revenue, so that's why we ranked it number 3. In terms of cost of time, is still a lot of manual work to cross-check these documents by eye. You can avoid a lot of risk, so we put it 5. We don't need any data, so we put it 5. So you have the data, the documents that are existing are enough. In terms of technically capable, we will use OC the documents, but in some scanned documents, there can be some issues. So there is some improvements and some work to do that. For example, scanned receipts from the order or something like that. So there is some technical aspect, but it's not that difficult. In terms of integration, it can run directly on your own system or online quickly in some simple automations. In terms of adoptions, it is appended to a step they already do and perform, so this does not change their current behavior. Changing behavior means a lot of friction and means less adoption likely. In terms of owner priority, if the owner complains about these issues and mismatches, so he will push you to implementing this, and that's it. So you can do the same in terms of, for example, the demand forecasting side. In this case, the highlight is that you cannot forecast if you don't have enough data. If you have only a few consignments, you cannot forecast what you're going to sell in that market. It's not enough. You will use simplistic model to forecast, but you will not going to build a machine learning model to do that forecast. And then also it doesn't make sense for a company that is starting out to do this forecasted for them. But it will make sense for a bigger sized company, as we will see later. So if the company has a different size, the rating will change. So this is what I wanted to highlight. So depending on your own context, whether you are in exporter in other types of businesses, the rating will change. If you're starting out, you're more going to do some things like market research and identifying the right market, the right ashes code, and these aspects. If you are a growing brand, the top 3 might be the document engine, the document check, and watching what is happening. And then if you're a more larger brand, you can already do that because you have data, so you can justify some forecasting. You can automate more of the processes because you have done them many times. So what is your business activity? What you want to achieve in your current business? Do you have a question about how you can implement AI? And does AI really fit in terms of what you're already doing in your profession, in your business line? And if you want to do an analysis on another type of business, let me know, so this becomes a series. Thank you for watching. If you need advice, you can contact us for a 30-minute free strategy call. If you want the full report, it will be published soon, and I will put the link in the description. Thank you.